Coming up, the search is on for a missing girl in Newton County, Missouri.
We talk about it long enough. Now we can finally say we did at least tie a record high this week. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And Kansas Governor Laura Kelly signs to axe the food tax over the next 3 years.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is now 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first let's go to Michael Hayslip.
Ever since Monday started, Tanya, we kept I'd sit up here on my soapbox and say, we got a chance to break a record high. We got a chance to break. How about tying one?
Hey.
We did that yesterday at Joplin Regional Airport. We did get up to 90 degrees, ties previous records that were set in 1963, 1980, and 2005. Came within 1 degree of tying the 1963 record at Martin Johnson Airport in Chanute. As we sit right now, average high would be 76, another warm day ahead of us as we sit about from 66 all the way up to 72. So just a little bit cooler than what we've had past couple of days, but it's hard to call mid-60s pre-sunrise cool in the middle of May. Skywatch Storm Tracker looking great once again, still waiting on this system that's eventually going to formulate later on this afternoon and evening out to our northwest and then drop in on us on Friday. But for the time being, we're going to be back up into the high 80s again. And yes, we're going to challenge a record high for May the 12th. If we get up to 90 degrees. Our records today are 88 and 89 at Joplin and Chanute respectively. So if we throw up a 90 at any time, we are going to easily get there. That's our look at our afternoon planner. Let's take a look at future track because while we stay dry today, we know we've got changes coming tomorrow. There's that aforementioned system that comes in from the northwest. Most of the rain that we're going to see is going to stay out to the west of the 4 states on Friday morning. And then as we get into the afternoon, then we see it kind of dominate down to the south here for the evening hours into Saturday morning. After that, not much of a cool down, to be honest with you. 7-day forecast still has temperatures in the mid-80s through the weekend. Get a break on Saturday. Going to reemerge with some rain on Sunday, and look at this. We're going to keep those scattered rain showers all the way through the middle of next week.
All right, thanks, Michael. Firefighters worked to put out a blaze at a historic Joplin apartment complex overnight. Around 1:17 this morning, the Joplin Fire Department arrived on scene of First and Jackson, home of the historic Cleveland Apartments. When first responders arrived, there were 3 buildings on fire. JFD called in the assistance of the Oronogo Fire Department, Reddings Mill Fire, and the Carl Junction Fire Department. Even an hour later, the flames were still active in 2 of the 3 buildings. This is a developing story, and we'll have the latest information as it becomes available. Authorities in Newton County are looking for a girl who was last seen in her home early Tuesday morning. Detectives say 12-year-old Italy Renee Savage has health issues, and the heat could worsen those issues. They believe Italy might have left her home of her own will. Officials are asking Neosho residents living east of Oak Ridge Drive to check their outbuildings, as the last time she ran away, she was found in one. Law enforcement on Wednesday led a search party around that area. Authorities searched for Vincent Gepson, the man wanted in connection with a bank robbery on Monday. A surveillance image shows a man who robbed the Great Southern Bank on South Rangeline Monday morning. Police say the robber told a teller he had a gun and left with an undisclosed amount of cash. Police say after they released that image, they received a call from a man identifying himself as Vincent Gepson. The caller said he resembled the robber, but said it was not him. Authorities compared photos of the robber and Gepson, including a hand tattoo, and determined they are the same person. They also say Gepson has a neck tattoo on the spot where the robber wore a bandage. Investigators say they have evidence Gepson acquired a surgical mask shortly before the robbery, paid an outstanding bill with cash in Joplin shortly after the robbery, and walks with a limp like the robber. Missouri renews a call for a national convention to add congressional term limits to the U.S. Constitution. Supporters of term limits say they prevent lawmakers from holding on to power for too long. Critics argue that term-limited legislators lack institutional knowledge, giving an edge to lobbyists and other insiders. The convention will not happen unless legislatures in 2/3 of all states join the call, and then an amendment would be needed to be approved by 3/4 of all lawmakers. According to AAA, the average price of a gallon of regular unleaded in Missouri is at a record high, $3.98. That's leaving some looking at ways to conserve fuel. In some cases, that may mean switching to an electric or gasoline-electric hybrid vehicle. Frank Fletcher, Toyota in Joplin, says they've seen more people looking for hybrid cars.
We get a list, and they typically are the first ones that go every time we get those lists because they're in pretty high demand right now.
An electric vehicle may not be an option for everyone. Later in the show, we'll hear some tips on conserving fuel in an all-gas vehicle. On Wednesday, Kansas Governor Laura Kelly signed a law to phase out the state sales tax on groceries over 3 years. Governor Kelly had a ceremony at a grocery store in Olathe to sign the law. State's food tax is currently 6.5%, the second highest in the nation. It will first drop to 4% in January, then it will fall by 2% every year until it hits zero in the year 2025.
Here in Kansas, we grow the food that feeds the world. But right now, with inflation, our own groceries cost way too much. No family in Kansas should have to choose between buying groceries and paying the rent or mortgage.
Governor Kelly also said she would likely sign a bill legalizing sports betting later this week. A Girard, Kansas woman finally gets the chance to go on her dream vacation with her son. Billy Messenger is a mother who was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Recently, she was put in hospice care. Billy has a 10-year-old son, and she has always dreamed of taking him to Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. With the help of a social worker and a nurse, they were able to make that dream a reality. More than 12 million Americans are battling fibromyalgia. The National Fibromyalgia Awareness Day today aims to put a spotlight on the musculoskeletal syndrome. It has a range of symptoms, including pain all over the body, numbness, incapacitating fatigue. There's no cure, but there are treatments and therapies to try to ease symptoms. Several other days related to fibromyalgia awareness are also observed today, including international days. You can mark the day by learning more about the condition and supporting those who have been diagnosed with it. You can also post to the social media hashtag Fibromyalgia Awareness Day.
Tell you what, without the cloud cover that we had yesterday, if you step outside right now, you're going to see an alignment of, start at the horizon, work your way up. You're going to see an alignment of 3 bright celestial objects. And in order from bottom to top, those are Venus, Jupiter, and Mars. And they're glowing bright as can be right now. So take advantage of that. Once again, it's Venus, Jupiter, and Mars if you go from bottom to top. How is that for like the worst astronomical description of all time, bottom to top? Temperatures right now, same thing that we've had past couple of days. We're out to the far east, Monette and Cassville and Anderson, couple of our cooler places, if you will, even though it's 63 and 64 is great for pre-sunrise in middle of May. 72 in Chanute, 70 in Neodesha, so a little bit warmer out to the west. Eventually, everybody making it toward the 90-degree mark, whole lot of sunshine. Sunrise officially 6:12. Whole lot of sunshine today, sunny and warm, a little south gust. Going to work in at 20 miles per hour. And then we await our system that is on us for Friday morning. It is not widespread. It's rather sporadic from really Friday morning through the afternoon and evening hours. A little bit of a cool down. We'll go mid-80s over the weekend.
All right, that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, 2 PHS students signed to local colleges for their collegiate careers. Plus, Lake Mead dries up due to climate change and reveals some spooky secrets. Ooh. And a weight loss clinic is raided in Michigan. We'll have the details. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Championship night at the Class 1 District 6 softball tournament in Liberal, Missouri. Hometown Bulldogs, a shot to win a district title, do so on their own field, and had to face the top-seeded Jasper Eagles. Winner moves on to the Class 1 state quarterfinals next week. Mercedes Scott up for Jasper, grounds one up the middle, 2 Eagles score. It is Jasper striking first, 2-0. Second inning, Livia Dunn knocks it through, RBI double. Next batter, Shiloh Storm. So nice, let's do it twice. Storm doubles as well, and Jasper's up 4-0. Back up in the third, slips it through. That's going to score Dunn once again from second base. Jasper in control the entire way. This time, Abigail Dunn pushes the lead to 8. Jasper ends it early, beats Liberal 15-3, takes home the district championship.
It's so exciting. I have played softball all 4 years and we have almost made it, and we finally did it. And I'm just so proud of these girls. We've worked so hard and we deserve this so much. We wanted to fight for it and we wanted to rally.
It's been keeping me motivated, knowing that next year I won't be able to do it again. And so they've been such a family to me, and we just keep each other motivated.
Girard Trojans finished the softball regular season with a 7-0 shutout win. Trojans winners of 4 of their last 5 games to finish off the schedule, and gotten some big-time production from junior outfielder Emmeline Sinnecott. Sinnecott homered in each of the Trojans' last 4 games. She's hit 7 home runs in the last 9 games. On the season, she's hitting .438. She's got 10 dingers, team-high 29 RBIs. Here's Emmeline on getting hot at the end of the season.
I just feel like I'm seeing the ball pretty good. We practice hitting every single day, had it set up hitting stations every single day, so we've just been hitting the ball really good right now.
She's a key. She bats in the 3-hole because she not only hits for power, but she has a good batting average. I think probably the second best on the team. So, and we follow her up with her with Leah right behind her, who has also got power. So if they try to get too cautious with Emmeline, then we have Leah that hopefully will come in and take up the slack if they try to get around Emmeline.
A pair of Pittsburgh high school athletes continue their careers in college, both signing in different sports, but staying in Southeast Kansas. Kaylee Ratzlaff signing to play college softball. Kaylee's going to Chanute to play for Neosho County, and Matt Smith, he is going to wrestle at Labette Community College. Smith, a 3-time state qualifier, finished 6th at state in February, becoming the Purple Dragons' first state medalist since 2018.
Goal for my first year would be to start for sure, but then once I get that goal done, then I'll to place at nationals and further go to a 4-year college for wrestling.
It truly means a lot because I've been playing softball since I was 4, and I was going to be really sad if it just ended this year. And I'm so glad that I got reached out to and I made the connections and that I got another chance.
Congratulations to the Smith family and the Ratzlaff family. I've had the privilege of knowing Kaylee since she was just a little more than 4, still knee-high to a grasshopper, as I would say. Former Pittsburgh State linebacker Darian Taylor earning his shot at playing professional football. 3.5 years after his college career ended, Taylor has signed a deal to play in the Canadian Football League. Former Gorilla signed with defending Grey Cup champion Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Taylor, a captain for Pittsburgh State, and a 2-time All-MIAA selection before finishing his career back in 2018. You can check out our full story with Taylor on our sports page at KOAMNewsNow.com. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, North Korea reporting its first ever case of COVID. And a check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. Kind of give you an idea about what we were talking about earlier. We take our tower cam outside of 7th and Range Line. We got our flag out due to the east. And this, we got Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. Right now, that's going to be Mars, and that's going to be Jupiter right there. Venus still a little too low for us to pick it up. But even the fact that, I know you're thinking, oh, it's just a little white dot. To the naked eye, the fact that we even pick it up on our tower camera, considering where we have it, and don't get me wrong, our engineers do a marvelous job with it, but the fact that we can pick those up on our tower cam, an indicator of how bright those 3 planets are this morning. Absolutely gorgeous. 68 degrees over 7th and Rangeline right now, coming off of a record-setting day at Joplin Regional Airport. Got all the way up to 91 degrees, broke the previous record of, tied the previous record from 63, 08, and 1980 and 05. Here's where we sit right now. A whole bunch of 60s for the central and eastern portion. Less 70s than what we've seen past couple of days, but still pretty abnormally warm start. The reason we're able to get such a great look at those planets, void of any cloud cover. The clouds yesterday brought us those wonderful hues at sunrise. At 6:12 today, we should be on the clear side, but remember, each second that we get closer to 6:12, you lose that view of the planets as the sky begins to lighten up. Waiting on some low pressure to move in just to the northwest, not really associated with that cloud cover. It's yet to develop. We'll have until this afternoon and evening. before we actually see some formulation. Kind of reset our temperatures here and show you that we're going to go from, let's say high 60s, low 70s, all the way up to the 90s later on today. We are going to pick up some pretty good south breeze this afternoon and evening, gust up to 25 miles per hour, but for the most part, we'll keep that at about 5 to 10 miles per hour throughout the course of the day. Future track for today, once again up into the 90s, 88 and 89 are records at Joplin and Chanute, so probably should be able to, instead of tying a record, actually break one. Then there's our low pressure, kicks in from the northwest. Rain's expected for our far western counties Friday morning, not widespread though, it'll mainly stay out to the west because it's going to break up before it reemerges out here to the east. Now we'll pay attention for Friday afternoon and evening. So some thunderstorm activity that whips back in, kind of dominates the central and southern portion of the 4 states. Farther north that you go, it does appear that the drier that you will be. 7-day forecast, temperature is going to fall into the mid 80s. I say fall into the mid 80s. That's still about 10 degrees above what we'd anticipate for this time of year for over the weekend. And then we keep those chances for rain along with the warmer temperatures to begin next week. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. One of the nation's most critical water reservoirs is drying up and doing so at record rates. And in the process, exposing gruesome discoveries of human remains. Rob Dawson has more on the bodies in Nevada's Lake Mead and how they could be connected to decades-old mob activity near Vegas. And now why officials say, oh yes, even more remains could still be hidden.
Shocking human remains uncovered in Nevada's Lake Mead Reservoir after extreme drought fueled by climate change continues causing water levels to nosedive to their lowest in recorded history. Over the weekend, 2 people paddleboarding on the lake discovered human bones, including a jaw with teeth. This comes days after the decomposing body of a man was also spotted inside a rusted barrel in the lake, similar to this one recently found. Law enforcement are currently treating the case of the man in the barrel as a homicide. Investigators have not yet identified the remains, but presume he may have been shot, estimating he died anywhere between the mid-1970s to early 80s. The discovery now causing speculation over whether the death could be traced to members of the mob who once dominated nearby Las Vegas.
We were born from the mob, basically, unlike any other city that you could think of.
Although some local officials say more evidence needs to be unearthed.
If they're able to identify the caliber of bullet, that would tell them an awful lot as to whether or not this is a, quote, mob hit or not. Ordinarily, the mob in those days, if they were going to kill somebody, they took the person or they found the person outside of Nevada, outside of Las Vegas, because they did not want to bring attention to Las Vegas.
But as Lake Mead continues drying up, crime experts warn these discoveries may not be the last.
There's concerns that there are other bodies.
Environmentalists predict water levels could fall by another 20 feet over the coming weeks, spelling catastrophic effects as the lake delivers water for tens of millions of people living in Nevada, Arizona, and California.
Brings us to our question for our Something to Talk About this morning. Does human behavior affect the climate? A couple ways to connect with us. Number one, you can go straight to the poll at koamnewsnow.com/vote. You can also connect to us via our Facebook page at KOAM News Now. We'll get to your results a little later in the show. Healthwatch is next.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, the CDC killing tens of thousands of Americans each year. And a new study suggests identifying who's at risk varies based on whether the person owns a firearm. Mandy Gaither has more on the findings and what researchers say needs to change.
A public health crisis, suicide in the U.S.
Our sort of traditional ways of screening for suicide risk is to ask people, are you having thoughts about suicide?
In a new study published in JAMA Network Open, researchers from the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center found current screening questions may not be enough to identify gun owners who are having thoughts of suicide.
U.S. adults who report being gun owners are much less likely to report having thoughts about suicide if they've recently made a suicide attempt. They were much more likely, however, to say that they have been thinking about ways or methods to attempt suicide. We're in essence asking the wrong questions.
Since there's no one way that a person thinks about suicide, this study's lead author, Craig Bryant, says there's no one set of suicide screening questions right for everyone, and that gun owners and those who don't have a gun may have suicidal thoughts differently.
Perhaps a better question is to ask, have you been thinking about ways that you might attempt suicide?
In 2020, 53% of all suicides involved firearms, according to the CDC. Brian says locking guns away, removing immediate access to the firearm can save lives, but so can changing how we screen for suicide risk.
If we only focus on one piece of the puzzle, then we'll continue to miss a lot of people at risk.
For anyone at risk of suicide, help is available 24/7 by calling 1-800-273-TALK or texting 741-741. Michigan State Police raid a weight loss clinic accused of illegally selling oxycodone. About a dozen state police officers with guns and safety vests raided the Lighthouse Medical Center on 8 Mile Road in Detroit. The clinic is allegedly part of Operation Candyman, a large-scale opioid operation where nurse practitioners write illegal prescriptions for narcotics like hydrocodone and oxycodone. The pills were then reportedly split up and sold on the streets. A statement from the Michigan State Police says illegal clinics such as this one play a role in the state's overdose deaths and addiction problems. And that's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. Coming up, the search is on for a missing girl in Newton County, Missouri.
Mid-May, and we're going to watch the heat waves come off of the streets throughout the entire 4 states and possibly set another record, the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And Kansas Governor Laura Kelly signs on to axe the food tax over the next 3 years.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's now 5:31. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip.
Past couple of days, Tanya, at 7th and Rangeline, we've been starting off around 72 to 74 degrees, 68, so just a touch cooler than what we've had Monday through Wednesday, and that's pretty much evident throughout the entire 4 states. It is a tad bit sticky out there, though. Humidity hanging at 87%. All right, we've got Venus and we've got Jupiter. This is a live look outside of Television City facing off to the east right there. That's where our flag is. Mars kind of out of our purview right now as far as just the length of the tower cam. But if you look out and you see those 2 glowing orbs out in the eastern sky, once again, it's Mars and Jupiter. And they're absolutely gorgeous and bright because we lack any of the cloud cover that we had from yesterday. Daily Almanac coming off of what was a record-setting Wednesday. Tied the record of 90 degrees at Joplin Regional Airport. 4th time that we've hit 90 for May the 11th. It's going to now be 1963, 1980, 2005, and 2022. Still sitting on 65s in Monette, 64 in Cassville, and all the way up to 72 right now in Chanute. Let's roll 63 in Miami. War Dog country, enjoying some nice mild pre-sunrise temps. Everybody, though, is going to make it up into the high 80s later on. With a clean Skywatch storm tracker, no travel concerns whatsoever. Officially, sunrise will be here at 6:12. We will pick up some gusts around 25 miles per hour. Let's get into future track because after a clean Thursday, I'll be at a hot one. A lot of water, a lot of sunscreen when you're outside this afternoon. Great looking evening if you've got nighttime plans. Then we begin to develop out to our northwest. Not on us, though, until early Friday morning. Out in the west, you're going to want to make sure you and the kids have the umbrella ready. Farther east you go, farther north you go. It stays on the dry side. Watch this thing reemerge right here. Boop, just kind of jumps over us there, shows up Friday evening, but then we're right back on it for the south and the central portions for Friday night into Saturday morning. 7-day forecast, so I'd say it's a little bit cooler, but still mid-80s. For this time of year. Pretty warm over the weekend. Scattered shots for rain into next week.
All right, well, we've had our dry stretch, I guess. Time to get it back in there. A little bit here and there.
It's not, I'm more worried about the winds than I am the amount of rain.
All right.
Every now and then those thunderstorms won't pop and kick up some pretty good winds.
True, and then you'll need a little bit of that moisture to
Yeah, I'll burn up some of that humidity that's been hanging up around there. Yep, I've thought about that.
All right, thanks, Michael. Authorities search for Vincent Gepson, the man wanted in connection with a bank robbery that happened on Monday. A surveillance image shows a man who robbed the Great Southern Bank on South Rangeline Monday morning. Police say the robber told a teller he had a gun and left with an undisclosed amount of cash. Police say after they released that image, they received a call from a man identifying himself as Vincent Gepson. The caller said he resembled the robber, but said it was not him. Now, authorities compared photos of the robber and Gepson, including a hand tattoo, and determined they are the same person. They also say Gepson has a neck tattoo on the spot where a robber wore a bandage. Investigators say they have evidence Gepson acquired a surgical mask shortly before the robbery, paid an outstanding bill with cash in Joplin shortly after the robbery, and walks with a limp like the robber. There is increasing worry for the well-being of a girl last seen in her home Tuesday morning. Detectives say 12-year-old Italy Renee Savage has health issues, and this heat could worsen those issues. They believe Italy may have left her home at her own will. Law enforcement on Wednesday led a search party for her. Officials are asking Neosho residents living east of Oak Ridge Drive to check their outbuildings. She has run away in the past and was later found in an outbuilding. Her father says he's doing what he can to be strong.
This is about her. It's not about me. She needs me to be strong.
Anyone with any information on the whereabouts of Italy is being asked to contact the Neosho Police Department. Gas prices continue to climb, with AAA saying the average price for regular unleaded in Missouri is $3.98 a gallon. KOAM's Chris Warner has some options to help you conserve fuel.
Frank Fletcher Toyota in Joplin is one of many dealerships in our area offering electric or gas-electric hybrid cars. However, employees say demand is high, and in most cases, those vehicles are pre-ordered and sold before they ever hit the lot. Despite that, sales professional Sage Honey says there are some benefits to switching to a hybrid vehicle.
Depending on how much you drive, you can save anywhere from $2,000 to $3,500 a year just in gas, between a gas to a hybrid car.
Honey says the number of electric and hybrid vehicles are expected to increase, and as Toyota makes plans for new all-electric models, they're making changes at their dealerships to combat issues like not having enough charging stations.
We're going to start getting charging stations all around our dealership for them. And then by 2030, we're expecting to have up to 14 all-electric models. So we're going to start seeing a lot more electric and hybrid vehicles here.
An electric or hybrid vehicle may not be an option for everyone, or maybe something you're just not interested in. If you're driving an all-gas vehicle, Nick Chabaria with AAA's St. Louis office says there's some things you can do to improve fuel efficiency.
It's going to start with regular maintenance, making sure you're getting your oil changed regularly, making sure that you're getting your fluids changed out when they need to be, any repairs that need to be done, make sure to get those in because, that's going to help your engine run as efficiently as possible.
Some other tips from AAA include making sure your tires are aired up to the right pressure. When driving in town, adjust your speed to time the traffic lights, reducing the need for repeated braking and acceleration. And when approaching a red light or a stop sign, coast down to a slower speed instead of maintaining speed until it's time to stop. Now, despite rising prices, AAA says the roads may still be busy this summer.
Historically, when we've seen gas prices elevated, what we've seen is instead of people necessarily canceling their plans altogether, they'll find other ways to save and try to make up for the higher cost of fuel.
In Joplin, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
Yep, that accelerating too fast will get you for sure. AAA says another key tip to saving fuel is to slow down and drive the speed limit, as higher speeds result in more drag on your car. On Wednesday, Kansas Governor Laura Kelly signed a law to phase out the state's sales tax on groceries over 3 years. Governor Kelly had a ceremony at a grocery store in Olathe to sign the law. The state's food tax is currently 6.5%, the second highest in the nation. It will first drop to 4% in January. Then it will fall by 2% every year until it hits zero in 2025.
Here in Kansas, we grow the food that feeds the world. But right now, with inflation, our own groceries cost way too much. No family in Kansas should have to choose between buying groceries and paying the rent or mortgage.
Governor Kelly also said she would likely sign a bill legalizing sports betting later this week.
Get up into the high 80s, if not a 90 every now and then today. Great looking start. No clouds to worry about. Unfortunately, that takes away from the beautiful colors that we had sunrise yesterday, but at the same point in time, gives us a chance to check out Mars, Venus, and Jupiter up there in the eastern sky. That's where you're going to want to look. Going to be hot today. Whole lot of water, whole lot of sunscreen once again. And then we prepare for a system that moves in for the northwest. Begins with rain in our far western counties tomorrow and then spreads to the south and central portions.
All right. This morning we're discussing the secrets of Lake Mead are now exposed due to climate change. Lake Mead is drying up thanks to an extreme drought fueled by climate change. However, due to this, a shocking discovery. 2 people were paddleboarding over the weekend on the lake when they discovered human bones, including a jaw with teeth. This comes days after the decomposing body of a man was spotted inside a rusted barrel in the lake. Law enforcement are currently treating the case of the man in the barrel as a homicide. His remains have not been identified, and investigators presume he was possibly murdered in the mid-1970s to the early 80s. This creating speculation on whether the death could be traced back to members of the mob who once dominated nearby Las Vegas. And now for our question of the day.
Does human behavior affect the climate? Pretty close right now. 58% saying yes, 42% saying no. KOAMnewsnow.com/vote to go directly to the poll, or our KOAM News Now Facebook page.
All right, and that's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, a bus search in Georgia causes outrage with a college president. Plus, an Israeli journalist is killed while on assignment. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. Topping World Watch, a reporter for the Al Jazeera network was shot and killed while covering an Israeli raid in the West Bank. Imtiaz Tiab is tracking the latest developments from London.
Well, what we do know is Shireen Abu Akleh set out early this morning to cover an Israeli raid in the town of Jenin. Now, a warning here, some of the images are distressing, but she can be seen wearing a helmet and body armor that was clearly marked as press when she was shot. The journalist next to her here said they were targeted by Israeli forces. Now, Abu Akleh's employer, Al Jazeera, said the veteran reporter was, and I'm quoting here, assassinated in cold blood by Israeli forces. Israel's prime minister called the death unfortunate and blamed it on Palestinians, claiming they were, quote, firing indiscriminately. A second journalist was shot in the back but survived. Now, the U.S. ambassador to Israel is now calling for a thorough investigation. There have been near daily raids in the West Bank amid a series of deadly attacks inside Israel, with Jenin a main flashpoint. Shireen started her career in the 90s when there were few Arab women reporting on the issues that affected their own communities. She truly inspired a generation of other Arab women to do the same and will be greatly missed. Imtiaz Taib, CBS News, London.
North Korea is reporting its first ever case of COVID-19, with state media calling it a major national emergency. According to North Korean news media outlet KCNA, the first case of the Omicron variant was in the capital of Pyongyang. Authorities detected the Omicron case after collecting samples from people experiencing fever on Sunday. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has ordered all cities into an immediate lockdown. Kim chaired a Politburo meeting Thursday to implement what is being called a maximum emergency anti-epidemic system. The North Koreans are planning to distribute medical supplies that have been stocked up for use in such an emergency. Kim is also expressing confidence that his country will overcome the outbreak. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back with the news you need to know before you head out the door. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Authorities in Newton County are looking for a girl who was last seen in her home early Tuesday morning. Detectives say 12-year-old Italy Renee Savage has health issues, and the heat could worsen those issues. They believe Italy might have left her home of her own will. Officials are asking Neosho residents living east of Oak Ridge Drive to check their outbuildings, as the last time she ran away, she was found in one. Law enforcement on Wednesday led a search party around that area. And authorities search for Vincent Gepson, the man wanted in connection with a bank robbery that happened on Monday. A surveillance image shows a man who robbed the Great Southern Bank on South Rangeline Monday morning. Police say the robber told a teller he had a gun and left with an undisclosed amount of cash. Police say after they released that image, they received a call from a man identifying himself as Vincent Gepson. The caller said he resembled the robber, but said it was not him. Authorities compared photos of the robber and Gepson, including a hand tattoo, and determined they are the same person. They also say Gepson has a neck tattoo on the spot where the robber wore a bandage. Investigators say they have evidence Gepson acquired a surgical mask shortly before the robbery, paid an outstanding bill with cash in Joplin shortly after the robbery, and walks with a limp like the robber. Firefighters worked to put out a blaze at a historic Joplin apartment complex overnight. Around 1:17 this morning, the Joplin Fire Department arrived on the scene of First and Jackson, home of the historic Cleveland Apartments. When first responders arrived, there were 3 buildings on fire. JFD called in the assistance of the Oronogo Fire Department, Reddings Mill Fire, and the Carl Junction Fire Department. Even an hour later, the flames were still active in 2 of the 3 buildings. This is the developing story. We'll have the latest information as it comes available. A Girard, Kansas woman is finally getting the chance to go on her dream vacation with her son. Billy Messenger is a mother who was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and recently she was put in hospice care. Billy has a 10-year-old son, and she has always dreamed of taking him to Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. With the help of a social worker and nurse, they were able to make that dream a reality. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Beautiful start over the 4 states. There's a live look outside of Television City where our temperatures are in between the mid-60s that we see out to the east, and already a handful of 70s dominating southeast Kansas. Not as many 70s as what we've had past couple of days, but still a great looking start, meaning it's going to be another hot one this afternoon. Whole lot of water for extended periods outside. Sunscreen of the utmost importance as well, because nary a cloud in the sky. That will change as we get into Friday. We've got a system that develops out to our northwest. As it pushes in, we'll start with rain Friday on our far western counties of the 4 states. Then we get little sporadic breaks every now and then until it reemerges and works in from the south and central portions for Friday night into Saturday morning. 7-day forecast, even though it's a little bit of a cool down, mid-80s over the weekend, still abnormally warm. We'll keep those spotty chances for rain into next week and be able to ride the 80s all the way almost to the end of May here. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
President of Delaware State University, a historically black college, is expressing outrage after a bus of his lacrosse players was stopped and searched in Georgia. It happened at the end of last month when sheriff's deputies pulled the bus over as it was traveling back home from a game in Florida. Now, their bus was initially stopped for an alleged traffic violation, but it turned into a search for drugs. Members of the lacrosse team say they were being racially profiled. Police body cam video of the incident is released. Vladimir Dudier has the story from New York.
The reason I'm stopping is for a left lane violation. This is the moment Liberty County Sheriff's deputies pulled over a bus of women's lacrosse players last month. After talking to the driver, the sheriff's deputy pokes his head into the bus. Ladies, how are y'all doing? When he returns to the car, he makes this remark to a fellow deputy.
There's a bunch of dang schoolgirls on the bus. There's probably some weed. Maybe.
The deputies then inform the driver they're going to search the luggage under the bus. One deputy brings out a drug-sniffing dog. They return to the bus to explain what's happening.
How do we go from being in the wrong lane to going through our bags and checking?
There are times where we end up finding some children that are missing from their family. We find large amounts of money that nobody knows anything about. Okay? Or large amounts of cocaine, marijuana, heroin, methamphetamines, anything like that, okay? If there is anything in y'all's luggage, we're probably going to find it, okay? I'm not looking for a little bit of marijuana, but I'm pretty sure you guys as chaperones are probably going to be disappointed in you if we find any.
The deputies proceed to search the bags, going through the women's personal belongings. At one point, they pull out a wrapped gift.
What is that?
I have no clue. My aunt gave it to me.
Your aunt gave it to you?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what it is?
Georgia, no. I didn't open it. I was waiting until I got back to school. I can open it now.
No, what did she tell you it was?
She didn't tell me anything.
Okay, where did you get it from?
My aunt.
Georgia. In Georgia?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to open it.
Okay.
And we're going to find out exactly what it is.
Okay.
But however, this is the type of stuff that we look for.
After around 20 minutes of searching, the deputies find no contraband.
All right, ladies, thank you. We're going to get out of here. You guys enjoy the rest of your trip.
At a press conference yesterday, Sheriff William Bowman said multiple vehicles were stopped that morning and that his deputies followed the rules.
The deputy informed the passengers that the search would be completed.
This is the same protocol that is expected to be used no matter the race, gender, age, or destination of the passenger.
He later said this.
No personal items on the bus or person were searched.
Vladimir Dutip, CBS News, New York.
Just a bus of athletes without any contraband. There you go. Delaware State University President Tony Allen issued a statement saying, in part, "We do not intend to let this incident or any like it pass idly. We are prepared to go wherever the evidence leads us." We'll be right back.
Wanted just a quick update, and not quick update, an addendum to that story Tanya just did about the Delaware State bus being searched with their lacrosse team. And we talked about the deputies seizing the one gift box that one young woman's aunt had given her. Well, that young woman's aunt lived in Georgia where the team was playing and went to go see her since she goes to school in Delaware. So it was a little family reunion for them, and gave her a box and said, "Don't open this until you get back home." That's because inside that box was not contraband. It was indeed her graduation gift. Her aunt had made her a jewelry box and didn't want her to open it until her graduation day. Be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Coming up, authorities in Newton County search for a missing 12-year-old girl.
We got another hot one on our hands, close to record highs, coming off of a day where we actually tied a record, finally this week. The latest from the Skywatch list.
In Kansas, Governor Laura Kelly puts her signature on the Axe the Food Tax bill.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip.
Probably get away without having to run the air conditioner in the vehicle this morning over 7th and Range Line, but you just put the windows down. That'll suffice, because we are a couple of degrees cooler than what we've had on Monday through Wednesday. 67 degrees right now at Joplin Regional Airport. A little bit sticky, that humidity now growing all the way up to 90%. Gorgeous look outside of Television City right there. Daily Almanac coming off of a Wednesday where we tied a record at Joplin Regional Airport. The first one on record dated back to 1963. We also had hit 90 degrees in 1980 and in 2005. So now we add 2022 to that list. We range anywhere from mid-60s out on the east and gradually warm up all the way to the low 70s throughout southeast Kansas. An area of cloud in the sky, no precipitation to deal with, and once again, Midwest with a big high pressure system sitting right here. It'll bring us a whole bunch of sunshine today, and that means warm temperatures as well, back up close to, if not eclipsing the 90-degree mark. We'll get some southerly gusts, 20 to 25 miles per hour. All right, so as we cruise through Thursday, and we're looking good, up to the top left-hand portion, here comes that system out of the northwest. Gives us some Friday rain for far western counties to begin with. Then it kind of disappears on us, sporadic rain activity, and then down for the southern and central portions for Friday night into Saturday morning. As we get into the weekend, cool off a little bit, but still mid-80s, just about 8 to 10 degrees warmer than what we would think for May. What would that be? 13, 14, 15. Tomorrow's Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it is. It's a day to get freaky. Friday the 13th. Right?
Family-friendly entertainment.
Yeah, they made a movie called Freaky Friday that was
right.
very family-friendly.
What up, Linz? She's like, what up, Slip? I'm like, I know.
Yeah, that would be one of them. A lot of fun. All right, well, firefighters take on a blaze at a historic Joplin apartment complex overnight. Around 1:17 this morning, the Joplin Fire Department arrived on the scene of First and Jackson, home of the historic Cleveland Apartments. When first responders arrived, there were 3 buildings on fire. JFD called in the assistance of the Oronogo Fire Department, Reddings Mill Fire, and the Carl Junction Fire Department. And even an hour later, the flames were still active in 2 of the 3 buildings. This is a developing story, and we'll have the latest information as it comes available. Worries rise for the well-being of a girl last seen in her home Tuesday morning. Detectives say 12-year-old Italy Renee Savage has health issues, and this heat could worsen those issues. They believe Italy may have left her home at her own will. Law enforcement on Wednesday led a search party for her. Officials are asking Neosho residents who live east of Oak Ridge Drive to check their outbuildings. She has run away in the past and was later found in an outbuilding. Her father says he's doing what he can to be strong.
This is about her. It's not about me. She needs me to be strong.
Anyone with any information on the whereabouts of Italy is being asked to contact the Neosho police. Authorities searched for the man wanted in connection with a bank robbery in Joplin on Monday. Surveillance image shows a man who robbed the Great Southern Bank on South Rangeline Monday morning. Police say the robber told a teller he had a gun and then left with an undisclosed amount of cash. Police say after they released that image, they received a call from a man identifying himself as Vincent Gepson. The caller said he resembled the robber, but said it was not him. Authorities then compared photos of the robber and Gepson, including a hand tattoo, and determined they are the same person. They also say Gepson has a neck tattoo on the spot where the robber wore a bandage. Investigators say they have evidence Gepson acquired a surgical mask shortly before the robbery, paid an outstanding bill with cash in Joplin shortly after the robbery, and walks with a limp like the robber. Missouri renews the call for a national convention to add congressional term limits to the U.S. Constitution. Supporters of term limits say they prevent lawmakers from holding on to power for too long. Critics argue that term-limited legislators lack institutional knowledge, giving an edge to lobbyists and other insiders. Now, a convention will not happen unless legislators in 2/3 of all states join the call. And then an amendment would need to be approved by 3/4 of all legislators. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly signs a law to phase out the state's sales tax on groceries over 3 years. Governor Kelly had a ceremony at a grocery store in Olathe to sign the law. State's food tax is currently 6.5%, second highest in the nation. It will first drop to 4% in January, and then it will fall by 2% every year until it hits 0 in 2025.
Here in Kansas, we grow the food that feeds the world. But right now, with inflation, our own groceries cost way too much. No family in Kansas should have to choose between buying groceries and paying the rent or mortgage.
Governor Kelly also said she would likely sign a bill legalizing sports betting later this week. The body of aviation hero Charles Lindbergh's baby is found on this date back in 1932. This is more than 2 months after he was kidnapped from his family's Hopewell, New Jersey mansion. Lindbergh and his wife Ann discovered a ransom note demanding $50,000 in their 20-month-old's empty room on March 1st. The crime captured the attention of the entire nation, and the Lindbergh family was inundated by offers of assistance and false clues. Following the ransom drop on May 12th, a renewed search of the area near the Lindbergh mansion turned up the baby's body. He'd been killed the night of the kidnapping and was found less than a mile from the home. When one of the marked ransom bills turned up, police traced it to a German immigrant named Bruno Haupten. The resulting trial again was a national sensation. Although the prosecution's case was not particularly strong, intense public pressure was enough to convict Hauptmann. In April of 1936, he was executed in the electric chair. Kidnapping was made a federal crime in the aftermath of this high-profile crime.
A number of different characters at play there, including intermediaries with ransom money. And yeah, if Hauptmann really did it, was he part of a conspiracy?
I don't know. Yeah.
And a lead investigator with the last name of Schwarzkopf. Norman Schwarzkopf's dad was a part of that investigation. Of course, Norman known for other things. So that being said, did you want me to go with Jodie Foster? Because you were like, which one did you want me to go with earlier? I'm a big fan of Jamie Lee Curtis as well, and so that's why I took the newer, well, I guess it's not new anymore. I don't even, Lord knows how old that movie is. Did you want me to go the Jodie Foster route?
Either way works. They were
well, you
fun.
seemed dismayed when I said something about Lindsay Lohan.
I just thought it was funny that that's the one you picked. But then I remembered you're a big fan of Lindsay Lohan.
Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah. And like I said, what's up, Linz?
Lindsay and all the Herbie movies.
She's at home. She's like, what's up, Slip? 90 degrees, sunny skies today. Wind coming out of the south, gusting at 25 miles per hour, staying dry up until a system moves in for Friday morning. Starts far western counties before it moves into the central and southern counties for Friday afternoon and evening.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News. If it's Thursday, you know Chef Anthony Fisher is getting ready to unpack his knives for another delicious recipe. Today, he's bringing a little help with him. Plus, a wildfire rages on the West Coast.
A fast-moving fire here in California is destroying homes and forcing dozens to flee. I'm Dina Demetrius in Laguna Niguel with a look at the devastation.
And there's good news for the elderly, as exercise can reduce mobility disability by 22%. We'll explain. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, mandatory evacuations in effect for parts of Orange County, California, after a wildfire quickly erupted yesterday afternoon. It's the so-called coastal fire. It's burned about 200 acres and 24 homes, including some mansions along the Pacific Ocean. Dina Demetrius, she is there. She's had the latest.
Multi-million-dollar mansions and other homes went up in flames Wednesday. High winds and dry terrain fueling a wildfire in Southern California. Fire crews on the ground went house to house trying to contain the blaze. From the sky, planes dropped retardant in hopes of stopping the spread.
We have helitankers and we've got ground crews and we have every fire engine available in the area to come and put this fire out.
Laguna Niguel resident Brianna Kavinsky couldn't get to her home to rescue her pets.
I guess we'll wait here because I'm afraid to go further.
But firefighters came through, delivering Brianna's cat back to her.
I know they have huge things to deal with right now, so it was very thoughtful for them to save my animal.
Here you can see the complete destruction of homes right behind me and fires still blazing hours later. Local officials here in Orange County say the drought brought on by climate change is making conditions worse.
The fuels beds in this county, throughout Southern California, throughout the West, are so dry that, fire like this is going to be more commonplace.
Orange County Fire Authority Chief Brian Fennessy says 5 years ago this blaze would have been more easily contained.
The winds we experience today are not unusual. These were not Santa Ana winds. These are coastal winds that we experience generally every day.
Officials haven't said how the fire began. Dina Demetrius, CBS News, Laguna Niguel, California.
Authorities have not reported any injuries to residents nor firefighters. 4 people were shot in North St. Louis Wednesday afternoon. According to the police, 1 man's dead, 3 other people taken to a hospital after the shooting. A 6-year-old and 14-year-old were also shot. Police say a car in front of a vehicle with the victims blocked off the roadway. Then officers believe multiple shooters got out of the vehicle behind the victims and fired the shots. A man was hit multiple times in the torso. Police did not say where the other victims were shot. And Dallas police investigating a shooting at a Korean-owned hair salon Wednesday. 3 people shot. Detectives say their injuries not life-threatening. According to investigators, a man entered the store, yelled something unintelligible, and then opened fire. The suspect was seen getting into a dark-colored van, fleeing the scene. DPD does not believe it was a hate crime incident, but the investigation still continues. That is a look at today's top national news stories. We'll be right back with Chef Anthony Fisher and a couple special guests that he brought along, including Grandma's apple pie in Studio K, when we return right after this.
Welcome back. Of course, it's Thursday. We've got Chef Anthony in the studio again with us this morning, and he's brought a special guest, senior student at PHS. I guess not a senior anymore. Now you're graduating. Yeah. Caroline, thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And you're going to be making us something, or showing us how to make something today that is a family recipe.
Yes.
What are we making?
Apple pie.
Tell me a little bit about the background of this apple pie.
Well, my Nana just taught me how to make it when I was really young. I've been baking with her since, I could walk, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as you were revealing to me, this isn't just any apple pie. This is an award-winning apple pie.
Yeah.
So what she's done is she's taken her flour and her shortening. Now this is the important part. This is not butter. This is room temperature butter Crisco. Okay. So you really need to use shortening on this so that it will combine and make the dough nice and light and fluffy and flaky, because that's the key to a good pie crust, is having that shortening inside of there. A lot of people like to go, well, I like to use butter, I want something healthier. You need to go with the shortening. It is a absolute must if you want a really good quality flaky pie. And then she's going to add cold water to it, and it does need to be cold. It helps to bring everything together all the way through. And she added just a little bit of salt inside. And she has a pastry cutter. Most people have seen these, they usually use them to mash potatoes, right? Unfortunately. But this is exactly what it's for, and it helps to just kind of cut everything together and bring everything as one solid unit. And it comes together really easy. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort. I've made this pie crust from her recipe 4 or 5 times, and I can almost do it without the recipe now. So it's a very reliable, very simple recipe.
Are you keeping the ingredients a secret, or are you sharing them with us this morning?
They can be shared.
We can, yeah.
So what were the measurements that you used?
It's 2 cups flour, a stick or a cup of shortening, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then half a cup of cold water.
Okay, is it a teaspoon or a tablespoon of salt?
Teaspoon.
Teaspoon of salt.
Yes.
Okay.
And then eventually you can get your hands in there and just form it into a ball.
All right, yeah. What kind of texture are we looking for when we know that it's ready to start rolling out?
Not too dry, but not too wet. I like to put a lot of flour down on the surface that you're going to roll it out on. Make sure it doesn't stick to the surface or the rolling pin.
Okay. All right, any tips on like the types of apples that we're going to be using today, or?
Usually my Nana likes to use Godfather. She actually goes and picks them at an apple farm, but as long as they're a little tart, not like super sweet apples, because we do put a lot of sugar in there.
I know a lot of people use the Granny Smith apples for the apple pie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And we're going to use Pink Ladies this morning from Martinez Produce. They're absolutely wonderful this time of year. If you watch the apples as the seasons go through, you'll find just the right apple. And I always say, eat the first one, buy a couple extra, eat one, see how it tastes, and you'll know right off the bat.
Okay, so from start to finish, you've got your pie crust mixed together, and you did that in under 3 minutes. So step 1 was really fast.
Yes. Step 1 is real easy, it's real fast. And one of the keys with this though is you want to let your pie crust rest for just a few minutes, kind of let everything just come together. And this actually makes both crusts. Yep. So she's going to roll each crust, one for her top into a ball and one into a ball for her base. And when we come back at 7 o'clock, she'll assemble the whole pie for us.
Okay, that sounds perfect, because that'll be just the right amount of time to let it rest. And
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, all right, well, I'll let you guys take your break. We'll get back to the news, and we'll see you on the KOA Morning News on Fox 14.
All right.
Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, U.S. drug overdose deaths hit a record high in 2021. New CDC data indicating nearly 108,000 people died of drug overdoses last year alone. That's 50% higher than 2019. About 2/3 of last year's death involved fentanyl or other synthetic opioids. The director of the National Institute on Drug Abuse says drug overdose rates have been steadily increasing for decades, but researchers say the pandemic, well, it just made the problem worse. Other factors for the jump included more sophisticated drug distribution networks, tougher access to treatment, and the popularity of synthetics, which are easier to make and easier to smuggle. Health experts say more access to the opioid overdose reversal drug Narcan could help reduce deaths. Exercise going a long way towards helping elderly people with mobility problems. In fact, we've talked about it right here during our Wildcat Wednesdays with Tara Solomon-Smith. As a matter of fact, they have a strength and mobility class that they're getting ready to put on. All you have to do is call your Kansas State Extension office and they can set you up with one of those classes. And you may be interested in knowing a trial published by the British Medical Journal found strength and flexibility exercises, or even just walking, reduced disability by 22%. Now, it was also coupled with nutrition coaching. Findings show structured physical activity for people over the age of 70 tremendously beneficial. Elderly people with mobility problems face higher health care costs, poorer quality of life, and higher death rates. Using antidepressants while pregnant does not raise the risk of epilepsy or seizures in babies. That's a study in the magazine Neurology. Looked at 1.7 million children in Sweden and did so over a 17-year period. showing the first trimester antidepressant use did not raise rates of epilepsy. Study's authors say the findings should reassure mothers who are struggling with depression. And people with what we now call long COVID are at greater risk for blood clotting and difficulty exercising. Research in Blood Advances looked at people who were struggling with basic exercise 3 months after they were diagnosed with COVID-19, found they also had a 4 times greater risk of abnormal blood clotting. The impact of long COVID still being studied, but research does show difficulty exercising after infection, certainly a warning sign. That is a look at some of today's top health stories as you're watching the KOAM Morning News. Beautiful look outside of Television City. We are off to a wonderful start with temperatures right now that are already in between, say about 63 to anywhere 72, 73 degrees. So it's a delightful, delightful morning. You know, short sleeve. We know we're all going to end up in short sleeves and probably shorts by the time the evening rolls around and you get back off work, because we're going to be up in the 90s again. So no worries when you do head out the door. No worries temperature-wise. No worries cloud cover or rain-wise as well. As a matter of fact, even if we go out here through the entire Midwest, got to work into the upper plains, far upper plains, to find any thunderstorm activity. So we'll call that a winner for the rest of our Thursday. Speaking of the rest of our Thursday, get up around 90 degrees. South wind is going to kick in. We'll get some 20, 25 mile per hour gusts. Keep the rain at arm's length till Friday morning. We'll kick in on the far western counties of southeast Kansas before we see that spread into the south and central for Friday afternoon and evening. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Coming up, authorities in Newton County search for a missing 12-year-old girl.
Time to update the outdoor activity forecast as we head into the weekend, because we're going to have to fight the heat on a couple of days and the rain on a couple more for the middle of May. We'll have the latest in the Skywatch Weather Center.
And Kansas Governor Laura Kelly puts her signature on the food tax bill.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is now 6:29. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip.
Without belaboring the point, Tanya, 63 to 71 degrees is where we stand. Very comfortable. Let's get to the outdoor activity forecast. No matter what you're doing here, I want everybody to be on guard. A lot of water, a lot of sunscreen for our Thursday, but we'll keep that in the good category. Back off on Friday and Saturday, more so for the incoming rain. Temperatures are not going to be bad on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, though, may have a little residual precipitation left over, may hamper you if you're trying to get any yard work done. But then by the time we get into Sunday, we're going to be back into the good category, and our temperatures actually just a little bit cooler than what we've experienced the past 3 days and what we'll experience this afternoon. Entire Midwest still looking absolutely great as we get ready to jaunt up into the high 80s or perhaps even 90, 91. Now, with that being said, no matter even if we're, in between 88 and 91, it's going to feel about like 94 to 95 this afternoon. We're sitting with our humidity at 90% at Joplin Regional Airport at this time in the morning. As we get into Friday, system works in for the northwest. We'll see the majority of Friday morning rain, far western portions of southeast Kansas, and watch this, almost skips over us, reemerges back in central Missouri, but then for Friday night into Saturday morning, here we are for the southern and central portions, and that's why I went ahead and drop Saturday into that fair category. Farther north you get, probably drop those into the good category for you each and every day, because you're not going to see a whole lot of precipitation. Temperatures on Saturday and Sunday still sitting mid 80s, so that is hard to beat right there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, at least the lows are decent.
Oh, yeah.
You like temperatures in the 80s. It's a little warm.
Nighttime temps are going to be great.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thanks, Michael. Authorities in Newton County are looking for a girl who was last seen in her home early Tuesday morning. Detectives say 12-year-old Italy Renee Savage has health issues, and the heat could worsen those issues. They believe Italy might have left her home of her own will. Officials are asking Neosho residents who live east of Oak Ridge Drive to check their outbuildings, as the last time she ran away, she was found in one. Law enforcement on Wednesday led a search party around that area. On Wednesday, Kansas Governor Laura Kelly signed a law to phase out the state's sales tax on groceries over 3 years. Kelly had a ceremony at a grocery store in Olathe to sign the law. State's food tax is currently 6.5%, the second highest in the nation. It will first drop to 4% in January, and then it'll fall by 2% every year until it hits zero in 2025.
Here in Kansas, we grow the food that feeds the world. But right now, with inflation, our own groceries cost way too much. No family in Kansas should have to choose between buying groceries and paying the rent or mortgage.
Governor Kelly also said she will likely sign a bill legalizing sports betting later this week. Missouri renews a call for a national convention to add congressional term limits to the U.S. Constitution. Supporters of term limits say they prevent lawmakers from holding on to power for too long. Critics argue that term-limited legislators lack institutional knowledge, giving an edge to lobbyists and other insiders. The convention will not happen unless legislatures in 2/3 of all states join the call, and then an amendment would be needed to be approved by 3/4 of all legislatures. With summer-like weather, there's no better way to cool down than getting into some water. King Jack Park in Webb City opened its splash pad for everyone on Wednesday. It's for people of all ages, and the best part is it's free of charge. Splash Pad offers free fountains that shoot water at different levels and a bucket that fills up and tips over, offering a big splash. Well, in the wake of that Supreme Court leak about the potential overturn of Roe v. Wade, a bill that would have written abortion rights into federal law failed in the Senate yesterday. Senate Democrats could not get the 60 votes needed to defeat a Republican filibuster. Bradley Blackburn reports.
The motion is not agreed to.
On Tuesday, Vice President Kamala Harris presided over a failed bid by Democrats to enshrine abortion rights into federal law. All 50 Republicans and Democrat Joe Manchin of West Virginia voted against it.
The majority of the American people believe in defending a woman's right, her choice, to decide what happens to her own body. And this vote clearly suggests that the Senate is not where the majority of Americans are on this issue.
The Women's Health Protection Act would have codified the 1973 Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision and outlawed some restrictions on abortion that are currently allowed by the court. Republicans insist the act was an overreach.
Their extreme proposal goes way beyond codifying the status quo. It would roll back many existing laws.
The measure was always a long shot in the Senate, but Democrats wanted to put lawmakers on the record and rally voters before the midterm elections.
Vote, elect more pro-choice Democrats if you want to see a woman have control over her own body.
This weekend, more protests are planned in cities around the country and along the National Mall in Washington. At the Supreme Court Thursday, justices will gather for their first scheduled meeting since the leak of a draft opinion overturning Roe v. Wade. Their final decision is expected this summer. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
The Attorney General is being briefed on security measures for the Supreme Court and has directed U.S. Marshals to ensure the justices' safety. On this date, back in 1903, President Theodore Roosevelt's trip to San Francisco was recorded on film, making him one of the first presidents to have an official activity recorded in that medium. Cameraman named H.J. Miles filmed the president while riding in a parade in his honor. The resulting short movie was titled The President's Carriage and was later played in arcades across America. The film showed Roosevelt riding in a carriage and escorted by the 9th U.S. Cavalry Regiment, an all-black company. Roosevelt was the first president to take advantage of the impact motion pictures could have on the presidency. He encouraged filmmakers to document his official duties and post-presidential personal activities, including his funeral in Oyster Bay, New York in 1919.
How great would it have been if President Roosevelt had Twitter?
It would be like our last president, who was on social media a lot as well.
Well, I don't know that. President Roosevelt may not have liked it.
I don't know. I feel like if he took to film
and
advancing
Rough Riders,
technologies,
blue check mark, boom.
Oh yeah, he would definitely hashtag Rough Riders, yes. I think he would jump on that opportunity if it was available.
And he gets a blue check mark.
I see Roosevelt as someone that looked towards the advancement of society, so. Just my opinion. Ooh, I put my opinion in there.
Twitter handle for President Roosevelt.
You don't like the hashtag Rough Riders?
No, his handle.
His handle? He had a great mustache.
The stash.
Yeah.
You got it. Yep.
Had to be something with the mustache.
That's exactly where I was going. The stash. It's going to be hot today. Hope historians right now are not mad at us. We're just having fun. 7-day forecast with temps up around 90 degrees. Challenging record highs once again. Remember, we're finally going to kick some rain in on Friday. Doesn't do much to slow us down temperature-wise. Still mid-80s over the weekend.
Leading with the stash. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, as gas prices continue to climb, a Saudi energy firm takes the mantle of most valuable company away from Apple. Plus, we take a deeper dive into a drought-stricken lake to see how climate change has brought its secrets to the surface. It's our Morning Talker, and we want you to weigh in. We'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, the pandemic days of extra room and more attention on planes over. Flight demand is up, and a new study from J.D. Power finds airline passenger satisfaction is down. Naomi Reckham reports.
Airports are crowded, plane seats are filled, and wallets are wheezing. All reasons some passengers aren't too thrilled to be flying.
It is more difficult, there's more delays, it's harder to get seats, everything's more expensive.
Now it's becoming very expensive for us to travel.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, airfares rose more than 33% over the last year, the largest 12-month increase since 1980. And the latest study from J.D. Power found airline passenger satisfaction took a nosedive over the last year.
Airplanes are becoming full again, and that tends to make satisfaction go down.
JetBlue scored the top spot for first or business class and for premium economy, while Southwest led customer satisfaction in the economy segment. Other airlines have room for improvement.
But the things they probably need to work on are improving the comfort of the aircraft in all cabin classes and working on people skills to make people feel less like cattle and more like valued passengers.
This study comes as carriers and airports gear up for the busy summer travel season, which is expected to see pre-pandemic passenger volume.
We expect this to be a busy summer, and we are as ready as we possibly can be. We're likely going to exceed in some airports, by good measure, the 2019 numbers.
The Transportation Security Administration says it is staffed up and also investing in new technology to help speed up the process for those summer vacations. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
TSA says it screened on average more than 2.1 million travelers a day in April and May. Oil giant Saudi Aramco is now the world's most valuable firm, taking over Apple on Wednesday. Aramco is valued at $2.4 trillion, slightly more than the iPhone maker. The switch comes as energy stocks have soared in recent weeks, while tech stocks have led the sell-off. Airline passengers in Europe may be allowed to ditch their face masks come Monday. 2 European Union agencies are no longer recommending passengers mask up. Individual airlines and countries can still choose to mandate face coverings. France announced on Monday it will lift its mask requirements for all public transportation. Google introduces a slew of new technology at its annual developers conference, including the Pixel 7 phone, an Android tablet, and a prototype of a new type of Google Glass. It's failed eyeglasses. A video showed them translating conversations in real time. This version looks more like normal glasses so as not to attract any unwanted attention. All right, they're secretive. That's it for Consumer Watch. Let's go over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, secrets of Lake Mead in Nevada that are being exposed due to climate change. Actually, I have human remains that are surfacing with the low water. Our question for you this morning, does human behavior affect the climate? Right now, 56% of you believe it does. 44% say, nope, you're not buying it. Appreciate your engagement each and every morning. We're going to come back, celebrate birthdays and anniversaries. But first, let's check in with Nate. He's in the Big Apple.
I'm Nate Burleson. Coming up on CBS Mornings, remarkable changes brought on by climate change. See how landmarks submerged for half a century are coming back into view. That's coming up on CBS Mornings.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, James Boyd. PSG Boyd served in the Army from 1967 to 1971 in Vietnam. He served with different divisions and groups, including the 1st Military Advisory Group. During his service, he earned 2 Purple Hearts and a Silver Star. The native of Humboldt, Kansas, we thank you. Today's four-state hero, James Boyd.
Getting kicked off with Jace Russell celebrating a 2nd birthday. Looks like we were out by the rocks in the lake right there. Jace, this comes with love from mommy and daddy. And Jace celebrates in Erie.
I'm trying to think of what's going through his head right now. Like, hey, let me go. I don't want to stop and take this picture. But okay, Mom, I will, just for you.
What about the look?
All right, Jace is 2 years old. Birthday. Weston Shanholzer turning 2 as well. Look at that big cheese there. Weston is in McCune.
I like that shirt too. That's sharp. We got the Cook twins. We've got Keely and Kinsley. We'll start with Keely. Miss Keely, and there's Miss Kinsley. I love the matching bows as well. Just flip-flop between them, guys, since they're twins. Let's just go back and forth while I'm talking about them. They are in Carthage, and I want you guys to have a marvelous 5th birthday.
Not. We don't have to. Hayden Markley is 8 years old this year. All right. Things are looking up there. I like that shirt. Hayden celebrating his birthday in Golden City with love from Mom and Dad.
On to those with double digits, and that includes Chase McCullough. What we got there, man? I can't see the signature. I like it.
I can't tell either.
Anybody watching right now, if you want to let us know what Chase, who signed that ball right there, I would love to know. Because we got a golden birthday. Big number 12 for number 12. And Chase is in Lamar. He goes to 6th grade out there. So Chase, have a marvelous golden birthday, my man. And congratulations on that ball.
That's cool. Very cool. In Webb City, Raymond Houston turning 14 years old this year. I love all the outdoor pics we're getting in right now.
Yeah, me too.
Fave, love when we can do that. That's awesome. Hope you have a great birthday, Raymond.
From outdoor to indoor, because this was taken at a recent dance competition for Jordan Evans, who cleaned up trophy-wise, that is for sure. Jordan, a very happy 15th to you. She's in Springdale.
All right. And Landon Wheat in Parsons, turning 16 years old this year. Happy birthday, Landon. With love coming from Mom, Dad, Ethan, Aiden, and your grandparents.
Here's a good one. Olivia Riddle celebrating her 17th birthday. Miss Olivia, a very happy birthday to you, with wishes coming from Mom, Dad, and the family.
All right. Hunter Mapes is 20 years old this year in Franklin, Kansas.
Richard Ressler. He's celebrating the big number 40. Richard, a very happy birthday to you in the Berg. That photograph was not taken in Pittsburgh. I am 99.9. I am exclusively reporting that from the Skywatch Weather Center. That background is not Pittsburgh.
Nope. All right, and in Thayer, we've got Travis Pack turning 44 years old.
I love those pictures where your dad's doing everything he can to take care of the kids and whatnot. And I just know he's going to be exhausted by the end of the day. So Travis, take this day and enjoy it, my man. Janet Shadden, she is celebrating her 60th birthday. Miss Janet, a very happy birthday to you in Elsmore.
Debbie Barr turning 69 years old this year in Parsons.
How about this for an anniversary? This is so neat. 71st anniversary for Kenneth and Virginia Lala. Check out the ride behind them. The painted Just Married 71 years ago. Congratulations, Kenneth and Virginia. That is amazing.
All right, and let's see, we've got...
Give Marissa Mosley a screen to
Marissa
herself.
Mosley.
She's turning 14. She deserves it. She deserves it.
And she's in Joplin.
She counting down days till school gets out. She's like, I got a birthday. I just want to enjoy summer. Marissa, a very happy birthday to you in Joplin. Happy birthday, happy anniversary to all. Here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club. All you have to do is go to our website and sign up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today. today.
Coming up when we transition over to the KOM Morning News on Fox 14, Tanya's favorite show. She DVR'd it last night. That's right, Tanya still uses DVR. It's Domino Masters. We're going to take a look at the Dominers, as they call themselves, that knocked down the competition. We'll be back with more KOM Morning News right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Authorities in Newton County are looking for a girl who was last seen in her home early Tuesday morning. Detectives say 12-year-old Italy Renee Savage has health issues, and heat could worsen those issues. They believe Italy might have left her home of her own will. And officials are asking Neosho residents who live east of Oak Ridge Drive to check their outbuildings, as the last time she ran away, she was found in one. Authorities search for Vincent Gepson, the man wanted in connection with a bank robbery that happened on Monday. A surveillance image shows a man who robbed the Great Southern Bank on South Range Line. Police say the robber told a teller he had a gun and left with an undisclosed amount of cash. Police say after they released that image, they received a call from a man identifying himself as Vincent Gepson. The caller said he resembled the robber, but said it was not him. Authorities compared photos of the robber and Gepson, including a hand tattoo, and determined they are the same person. They also say Gepson has a neck tattoo on the spot where the robber wore a bandage. Investigators say they have evidence Gepson acquired a surgical mask shortly before the robbery, paid an outstanding bill with cash in Joplin shortly after the robbery, and walks with a limp like the robber. Firefighters worked to put out a blaze at a Joplin apartment complex overnight. The Joplin Fire Department arrived on scene at 1st and Jackson, home of the historic Cleveland Apartments. When first responders arrived, there were 3 buildings on fire. Even an hour later, the flames were still active in 2 of the 3 buildings. And a Girard, Kansas woman is finally getting the chance to go on her dream vacation with her son. Billy Messenger is a mother who was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Recently, she was put in hospice care. Billy has a 10-year-old son, and she has always dreamed of taking him to Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. With the help of a social worker and a nurse, they were able to make that dream a reality. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Don't head out without a couple bottles of water and some sunscreen. Highs around the 90s today, plenty of sunshine. Tomorrow morning, we have a system roll in from the northwest. We'll start with rain in our far western counties of southeast Kansas, then get sporadic breaks for the later morning afternoon hours before it reemerges for tomorrow afternoon and evening for the central and southern portions of the 4 states.
Well, coming up today at noon, we're making a sugar cream pie in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Nah, it's nothing compared to what we're going to have coming up on the KOM Morning News on Fox 14 when we got Grandma's apple pie. And of course, right here, your morning news continues on KOM. CBS Mornings, that's coming up next. Families are still struggling to feed their babies with the shortage of baby formula. We're going to see how one manufacturer is doing their part to help with the demand.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. And as Michael said, Chef Anthony Fisher joins us back in the studio with Caroline and her grandma's apple pie.
Oh, it's going to be great. Plus, the Trump Hotel in D.C. officially has a new owner. We'll have those stories as well as a recap of Tanya's favorite show that she now DVRs, Domino Masters.
You're going to want to see this.
I'm going to kick you out of the studio when we do that story because I know your schedule was so busy last night that you didn't have time to watch, and I don't want to give a spoiler alert.
I woke up early.
Oh, good call. Wraps it up for this Thursday edition. Sunscreen and water, please, and most importantly, be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.